The real estate tax code does not change that often on Kauai, so this is actually big news. One of America's favorite pastime is to fantasy shop for real estate online. And whether you're fantasy shopping or actually shopping, if you look at real estate on Kauai, it can be a little perplexing because you can see very similar homes with very different real estate taxes. Why is that? Let's get into it. It used to be the property taxes on Kauai were based on a few aspects. How is it used? What is its value? Right? So where in a lot of places, property taxes are just based on what is its value, and depending on that value, that is what you pay in taxes. On Kauai, you are also taxed on how it's used, right? So a primary residence is a lower tax rate than a second home, which is a lower tax rate than a vacation rental. So not only is it assessed value, but it's also use. It feels like for a lot of us, inflation has gone everywhere, including into your property taxes. So property taxes on Kauai have gone up in most cases. Now, if it is your primary residence, your property taxes just went down. They are now $2.59 per thousand of assessed value. That is very low. It might be the lowest in the country. So one thing that I will say is that I think is pretty great about the county of Kauai is they do make a real effort to try to make Kauai a place where people who live here can continue to live here. They don't want Kauai to just be an island of vacation homes. And so they have lowered the property taxes for the people who live here. So on that account, yay, thank you, County of Kauai. In the other categories, which is non-owner occupant and vacation rental in terms of residential real estate, a non-owner occupant can mean a lot of things. It can be a second home that's used 1 to 2 weeks a year, or 3 months or 4 months, or even most of the year, but maybe just not your primary residence, right? So, or you can long-term rent it, right? So if you're long-term renting it, then that is considered a non-owner occupant, right? Not a vacation rental, but not a house that's a primary residence. So they have now tiered the tax code. So not only is it based on value and use, but based on the value, you're going to be in different tax brackets. If your non-owner occupant house is worth $1.3 million or less, then your tax rate is going to be $5.45 per thousand of assessed value. If you own a non-owner occupant home and it's worth less than $1,000, your property taxes just went down because they used to be $9.40 per thousand of assessed value, right? So once again, this, in my opinion, is the county's attempt to encourage or try to make it possible that people who live here and work here can continue to live and work here, right? So they're really focusing on local housing based on the value of these properties. Easier for people to hold on to their properties, to rent them long term, and for those people who are renting them to have as affordable of rents as they can. If your home is worth $1.3 million to $2 million, you're in a higher tax code. And that tax code is $6.05 per thousand of assessed value. Still a tax reduction. Great job, County of Kauai. If you're familiar with the average price of a home on Kauai, a lot of them are going to fall into this price range. So it still is trying to keep it affordable for people who are renting their homes, right? So good job. The third tax code for non-owner occupants, which is anything that's $2 million and up, is $9.40. So it has stayed the same. If you own a home that is not your primary residence and it's not a vacation rental and it's worth more than $2 million, your tax rate is going to be $9.40 per thousand of assessed value. Now, you could own an owner-occupied mixed-use property. In fact, these are super desirable properties on Kauai. An example of that would be if you have a house with an ohana, or a house with an additional dwelling unit that you rent out, or an additional rental unit that you rent out. So if you have one of these things that's not strictly a primary residence, but it's also not just a rental property or a non-owner occupant. So in terms of when it is mixed use, owner-occupied mixed use, your tax rate is now $5.05 per thousand of assessed value. Here's the really interesting part, which is vacation rentals. The mayor did not support this change. He and his team had reviewed these numbers. You know, they had spent a lot of time, energy, and effort reviewing these numbers. These rate hikes did not come from our mayor. Ross, who's one of the county council members, also objected to these real estate property tax increases. So Ross, who's one of the county council members, actually objected to this. He said, why are we these are paraphrasing, I wasn't there, but I heard it from an eyewitness. Why are we increasing taxes now when we have more tax revenue than we've ever had, based on the huge amount of depreciation that has happened on Kauai in real estate? The county is collecting more taxes than they've ever collected, right? So Ross's point was, this doesn't really make sense. We have more money than we've ever had. The mayor also said, we've already done all the work for this. We've looked at these numbers, extensively. So this wasn't the mayor's idea. Felicia also did not vote for this increase. When you raise taxes, they need a 5 to 7 vote. So Felicia and Ross were the ones who did not vote. I hope that helps you too. But it was passed. Now, the day it was passed, the county council room was packed full of vacation rental owners, property managers, cleaners. Vacation rentals are a really important part of our economy on Kauai. They employ cleaners, handymen, vacation renters. A lot of people who live here own vacation rentals as well. It is not just people from afar, as with hotels, right? If it's a hotel, those owners are not living on Kauai to a much, much higher degree than vacation rentals. So this was kind of a controversial thing, but it was passed. So what are the new vacation rental property tax rates? If your property is taxed at less than $1 million, very few vacation rentals are valued at less than $1 million. Maybe if you're in Banyan Harbor or one of the condos along the ocean in Kapa'a. But if you're in Princeville or Poipu, which is where most of the vacation rentals are, in one of those 3 areas, prices generally start a little bit under $1 million. So there aren't very many of these properties priced at $1 million or less. But if you're priced at $1 million or less, then your taxes are $11.30 per thousand of assessed value. That is up from $9.85. So it jumped a bit. Now the next tax bracket is for properties valued at $1 million to $2,500,000. Now if you're in that tax range, which is a lot of vacation rentals, not all, but a lot, then that tax rate is $11.75 per thousand of assessed value. And if you own a vacation rental that is valued at more than $2.5 million, then your tax rate is $12.20 per thousand of assessed value, right? That went up from $9.85. Now, one of the reasons why people are so upset about this is because this tax rate is higher than the tax rate that hotels pay. It seems, in their words, to be unfair, right? Hotels are paying less in property taxes than single-family homeowners. It seems a little unusual. One of the reasons why this passed is because The hotel industry is a very powerful lobby. People who own vacation rentals haven't really gotten organized yet. They haven't learned how to lobby or, how to butter the right pockets, as some would say. So it could be based on lobbying power. Obviously, hotels hate vacation rentals. They want to blame everything on them because it's their biggest competition. Now on Kauai and a lot of places like Kauai, vacation rental prices get the blame for housing affordability. There could be something to that, but a bigger problem on Kauai for housing affordability is the production of housing, right? We have had so many lawsuits against big builders that most of them are unwilling to develop affordable housing on Kauai because the lawsuits make it ineffective. Also, for a long time, governments have made developers, in order to get permits to build all these new properties, they have to put in a ton of infrastructure that maybe technically is the county's job, right? Widening the pipe, the water pipe at the street, or other things. They load so many of these county needs onto developers that it makes it so developers can only afford to build luxury housing, right? Another problem is just, if you look at an old Hawaiian plantation home, it's a simple build. I love a Hawaiian plantation home. I think they're elegant, I think they're beautiful, and I think they've survived the passage of time. But with today's building codes, just building homes, it's just so expensive. I talk to people who want to build spec homes here all the time, and they're often friends of mine. And I'm like, look, we could really use the housing. I want to encourage you to build some spec homes so people who live here can buy them. The problem is the cost to build a property when you're done is often so much that it surpasses its market value. There are a lot of factors that go into housing affordability and a lot more that have a much bigger impact on them than the number of vacation rentals on Kauai. As you know, if you live here or if you follow my channel, Kauai established their vacation rental laws back in 2008. And so we actually have a limited supply of vacation rentals. You're either in certain areas or you have a license, and that's it. If you don't have legal rights to owning a short-term rental, that property, I would tell you, at least in this political environment, will never have short-term rental rights. And through attrition, not everyone who buys a vacation rental with a license outside of the VDAs renews their license. So through attrition, every year we do lose some of the licensed vacation rentals. I'm super happy for you if you fall into the category where your taxes just went down. Yay. One of the things that I like to say about Kauai, and a lot of people like to say about Kauai, is it's the price of paradise, right? Most of us that live here or that own property here, we do it because it is just so beautiful, which is why when some of these things happen, we sort of, we take it. There is a lot of need on Kauai to put in infrastructure, and hopefully they use some of these tax revenues to do some of the things that have been deeply needed for a long, long time. I'm hoping that that is the case and that the tax dollars that are collected are put to good use. Until our next video, if you have any questions for me, if there's anything I can do to help you, please reach out, let me know. My name's Annie Elison. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe below. And I'm giving you all the thrilling and exciting real estate news on the island of Kauai.